I was planning, which is a rare thing. I usually don't have a video before I do my presentation, and it would have been really nice to have the video because I would amplify some of the points in the video. But suffice it to say, I'll hit a couple things that would have been talked about in the video, and then I'll go on to my normal presentation. So if you wait 1 second, I'll bring it now. This is the real question. Do you know that there are mountains in the West Bank? And invariably, I would get blank stares of people who knew for certain whether the land should be given up or the land should be kept, but they didn't know a rather basic fact of the existence of mountains in the West Bank, which I found a little bit ludicrous. Suffice it to say, I'm an attorney, so I wanted to get an evidentiary basis so people could help understand the problem. So that's how I came up with the idea of commissioning the map. And let me just go over, and by the way, everybody here, I'm going to be leaving, Bernard has a map, and there's going to be another map left in the synagogue, and I'm also going to be donating a map to the students at Rice University, because what I do is I have commissioned about 300 of these maps, and I've donated them throughout Israel, including the Israeli government, and just hundreds of people are now in Israel using this map and the system that I've developed. And let me just give you a brief overall glimpse of the map. Right up here is the Golan Heights. Right up here is South Lebanon. This is the north of Israel. Now, invariably, I have the map. I usually give talks to a smaller group of people. And the first question everyone says is, what's the blue patch? Blue strip. And invariably, the key is that when people see the whole topography, all of a sudden, the term green line becomes a little bit different. Can everyone hear me? Oh.
Put it back to where it was.
I'll put the microphone over here. That's a little bit better. And in fact, the green line is this green line that you see right over here. Now, that is the line that was the border before 1967. After 1967, Israel captured this entire area, which is commonly called the West Bank. And it's in fact a huge mountain range, which is the mountain range that general was talking about. And they went up to the Jordan River. So now, this is where the Israelis are. But when they talk about giving up the West Bank, what they are in fact talking about is giving up this entire mountain range overlooking the coast. Now, what I usually do is I have a satellite photo right next to the map so that the blue patch becomes a lot more significant. And what this blue patch represents is 70% of Israel's population and 80% of her industrial base. All right here. Localized right here. So, when people understand that this is the crown jewel of Israel's population, this little chunk of real estate becomes a lot more important. You don't have to be a rocket scientist general to understand what it means to control this mountain range looking down at 3 million Jews, as opposed to having the Palestinians or any other group sit here and look down at you. Now, a lot of times when people just see it, the mere seeing of it, it's like an experience for them, because generally speaking, people commonly think the West Bank is a little bit the size of a river. They don't understand it's this huge mountain range overlooking the population. And with respect to what the real, when they talk about cutting Israel in half, what they talk about is if the Arabs are here and they cut this part to the sea, there'll be a top half and a bottom half. Well, that's not exactly accurate, because if any kind of Arab army ever occupied any significant chunk of this area, they'd be occupying 70% of Israel's civilian population, which means they're not cutting the country in two, they're occupying the whole. So when you see it in these terms, it's a rather dramatic understanding of what's really there. Now, everybody in addition to the tape, which I'd like everyone to take home, I'd like everyone to just make sure they have these two materials that my lovely girlfriend and helper gave out. It's a pamphlet which says demilitarization risks, and it's a sort of a stapled page that has this little map of Israel with the lines here. Now I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you a couple of things which demonstrate how I use my plexiglass pieces, which will partially talk about what the video would have talked about. Now, one issue which is generally almost never discussed because it's really a rather abstract, obtuse issue is the water issue. Now, everybody knows that water is extremely critical in the Middle East, and it's extremely critical in Israel. But they don't quite grasp how the territories are responsible for the water. Now, everybody, forget about the West Bank, forget about Israel, forget about all these things, and I just want you to focus on this little plexiglass piece I have. And I want you to imagine that this is a roof. It's the side of a roof. Now, what happens when rain falls on a roof that doesn't have a gutter? Well, it falls off the side. That's rather simple. What happens if you have a gutter? Well, rain is held back. That simple notion is exactly what is going on with both Golan Heights and the West Bank for the following reason. Water falls in the Golan Heights. Because of the topography, it flows into Israel. And then from the Sea of Galilee, it feeds the whole country. Water falls into the West Bank. And because of the topography, moves to the coastal plain. Now, in essence, the Golan Heights and the West Bank represent close to 100% of Israel's water supply. Now you're looking at me and you're saying, he's a nice guy, he's well-meaning. Where does he get his facts from? Well, everybody, that's the key to essentially the project I've developed here. I have in my briefing book culled a heck of a lot of sources and developed some rather significant sources. And when I go to a senator or a congressman, I don't go with a little Mark Langfan. I take my briefing book with me. And what is the essential element is the briefing book. Because I know no one's going to believe me. But if you turn to page 4 of the Xerox materials, would you believe the CIA? If it says something that's, favorable or quote-unquote substantiating my point. This is from the Central Intelligence Agency, the World Factbook. They have a factbook on every country in the world, and they have a country called the West Bank. They also have a country called the Gaza Strip, but that's a separate matter. In this little factbook, under the little innocuous heading, environment, you'll see a one-sentence phrase. Highlands, meaning the Sumerian highlands, which is exactly the area that I just showed you. I beg your pardon? Okay, thank you. That's very important. It is very important that people see to their own two eyes. That's the whole idea of it. Highlands are a main recharge area for Israel's coastal aquifers. Now guys, if one of the issues that people really discuss is because Israel is occupying this area, they do not allow the Palestinians to dig wells and other devices which can hold back the water. If the Israelis withdraw,